Hi, and welcome to TMI Simulation Solutions Maritime webinar series, in which we will discuss with experts in the maritime industry the future of shipping. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic created new forms presenting new growth opportunities, incorporating fourth industrial revolution, technologies in sensing, automation, robotics, and communication. Through our webinar series, we seek to develop you to unlock the potential of digital technologies and solutions in the maritime and logistics industries to improve operator skills, productivity, and performance available to help you reach smart port evolution and deep digital transformation. In our second webinar, we will ask women leaders in the maritime industry to share with us their story and their career path to inspire many women to come on board. TMI Simulation Solutions, CMA CGM, Maritime Review Africa, and Wallem Group believe that within the industry, many companies and organizations are implementing initiatives to empower women to develop thriving economies, spur productivity, and growth to benefit every stakeholder in the global maritime community. This webinar features how global companies can empower women by creating opportunities for them. I'm very honored for introducing our guest speakers today. Let me introduce our first guest speaker. Yvette Klerk joined Wallem as a head of training during the 2020 in August, and throughout her career in the maritime industry, she has held various growing and training portfolios, worked in several countries across the globe, and represented South Africa at international maritime events as part of different government delegations. Yvette is passionate about transforming the maritime education and training landscape through collaboration and technological advancement to increase the industry safety culture. This led Yvette to conceptualize, plan, and host industry workshops and conferences in South Africa related to the Maritime Labor Convention in 2006 and MET, the digital era. Yvette is an associate fellow in the Nautical Institute and holds a bachelor degree in sports physiology, national diploma in maritime studies, and a master of science degree in maritime affairs from the prestigious World Maritime University in Malmö, Sweden. Most recently, before taking up her position with Wallem, Yvette was involved in WMU research projects founded by the ITF Seafarers Trust. The research evaluated the implementation of the current maritime regulatory framework on rest and work hours. Welcome, Yvette. Thank you so much for accompanying us today. Let me introduce our second guest speaker, Neusa Marcelino. She is the head of CMA CGM Southern Africa Cluster. She graduated in economics and management, and she has a post-graduation in business and leadership. Started in shipping at the age of 23 and has since then held different positions within the industry. Over the years, Neusa has been influencing several positions in the industry, and some stages she had 60% of the leaders within her team comprised by women. Her career progression has always been empowered by persistence, continuous learning, and passion for what she does. At 33 years old, she became the first African woman leading a cluster of CMA CGM. Welcome, Neusa. Thank you a lot for accompanying us today. And let me introduce our third guest speaker. Colleen Jacka has a very rich experience and knowledge in the maritime industry due to the fact that she has been reporting in the maritime industry for 25 years, providing unique and broad overview of the subsectors and industry stakeholders. Since the launching of the magazine in 2002, she collaborated with several maritime stakeholders on various projects, events, research, and also in textbooks. Colleen is committed to play a role in the development of the industry, as well as to promote general maritime awareness. She believes that the sector needs to hold itself accountable to the ambitious goal it sets. Welcome, Colleen, and thank you for accompanying us today. We would like also to mention we're part of Women's International Shipping and Trading Association, WISTA, a global organization connecting female executives and decision makers around the world since 1974, with the mission of supporting women in the maritime industry, trading, and logistics sectors. WISTA SA was relaunched in 2019. And if you're interested and want to find out more about the organization and the membership, please follow WISTA in social media. Thank you, WISTA, so much for supporting us and also for introducing us. Before we begin, I would like to request our audience to share their questions on the chat, as well as to congratulate our guest for such an exceptional career path. Please make sure to share your contact details through our chat for us to share with you more information about Wallem Group, CMA CGM, Maritime Review Africa, TMI, or WISTA. We will display our contact details at the end of the webinar for you to start a conversation. And now I want to hand the microphone, please, to Yvette. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity. This is always the most stressful bit just to get started in terms of figuring out, okay, at least mute is off so you can hear me. Let me share my screen, and then it's stressful to make sure you share the right screen. Let's just move this one out the way. You would think after probably, what, 2 years of this online type of thing, we should have it all smooth by now.
Yes.
There we go. There we go. I trust everything is working. So thank you once again for this opportunity for me to share my journey. Initially, I was thinking I'll skip the first bits of where my first idea was probably to become the news reader, because the women always looked so pretty and well dressed in their makeup. And I'll skip the bit where I wanted to become a policewoman, probably. But wanting to become a ballerina was part of the plan at some stage, and that is why it's in this presentation of mine, because it leads to my maritime journey. You can see from the first picture that I was probably never going to be a prima ballerina. So that's why I'm not a prima ballerina. The middle picture is as you've mentioned, my background actually straight after school. I come from Johannesburg, and straight after school I went to TUX, the Pretoria University, and I got a degree in sport psychology. So I've always still had a keen interest in training and exercise, and so that is what I did. And at the same time, I also did a personal training diploma. And then, as you can see there, for many years, I actually worked for Virgin Active. So you'd say, what does that have to do with maritime and a woman in maritime? We'll get to that stage. Basically, during the period that I was a personal trainer, I then had the opportunity to actually learn how to fly a plane. And I obtained my fixed wing private pilot's license. But unfortunately, that is very expensive to keep up in basically building your flying hours, and more challenging if you are a personal trainer and you basically just get paid when your clients come to train. I'm not sure how many of you like going to the gym in summer, but in winter you get sick, you get lazy, and then the first thing that goes is the personal trainer's salary. So that didn't really work out that great, which then leads me to the initial plan or continuation of the plan and the introduction to maritime. So the picture on the left is the Norwegian Pearl, and that is in the port of Miami. And that is the day when I joined that ship as a personal trainer. So that was really my first connection to maritime. And you can see on the right, that is basically what the passenger gym looks like. And that is where I spent the majority of my time. For instance, in the morning, you would give a stretch class, aerobics class. During the day, you've got yoga, Pilates, spinning classes. and then you give presentations and seminars, and then you tell guests to buy pills and tablets that's going to give them a flat stomach, and there's detoxing for weight loss and all this. But now imagine this on a cruise ship where people are eating everything and anything because they're on holiday. So the plan to work on a cruise ship and make lots of money to keep up the flying hours also actually didn't work, because I was not that good in telling people that a tablet is going to make them skinny, because I didn't believe in it. But anyway, the benefit of this period was that I then made friends with the officers and the engineers, and that is really where my interest in maritime as a career prospect actually opened up. Because really, if you think about it, nautical, aeronautical, as I say, it's same. Obviously, one is up in the air and one is in the water, but in terms of navigation principles, meteorology, all of those are very similar. At that stage, I was older, because like I said, I've already had a different career path as a personal trainer. So it was quite challenging to actually get into a maritime college. I was still on the ship at the time when I applied both to CPUT and DUT, because at that stage that was the only training options in South Africa. And neither of those two learning institutions would actually accept me. So bad that some didn't even actually respond to me. So what I literally had to do when I signed off, and I still tried to call and there was no response, I literally booked a ticket from Joburg. I flew to Cape Town. I knocked on the door of Prof. Snyder's and I said, I want a response because I'm trying to get into this college and it's not possible. I'm missing a part of the story. The first time I didn't get in anyway, so I applied internationally and I actually started my studies in Australia at the Australian Maritime College. Then I went, these are the photos as a cadet. This is actually of the engine department. And it was after this, when I was supposed to go back to Australia, that I tried to get into South Africa to swap from studying in Australia in my home country. And that is when I had to knock on the door of Prof. Snyder's. Until this day, we have a good laugh because I actually ended up, for part of the studies, actually being his best student. And I said, but you didn't even want me. So we're good friends and we have a good laugh about that. For a different story, and that could be in the episode of Your Mother Told You So, we can go into the details as to why I did not continue my career at sea and why I don't have a certificate of competency. But skipping the details on that bit, 2011, I started with Marine Crew Services, which for those of you that know, based in Cape Town, and they've got a sort of a crewing arm and again, a training arm in terms of managing cadet training programs. And that is why I started with Marine Crew Services. And I had quite a long period with them from 2011 till 2016, end of 2016. And in that period, I was also seconded to the sister company, which is Arco Offshore, based in Singapore. Now, the significance of the photo on the left in terms of the command seminar, that was the first command seminar, Nautical Institute command seminar that was held in South Africa in 2011. And that is also when the Southern African branch of the Nautical Institute was established. I was lucky enough that Marine Crew Services and our director at the time, Diana Collins, gave me the opportunity to actually attend this big international conference. And immediately when the branch was formed, I just knew that I had to sign up. And I didn't go to the company to say, will you please pay my membership fee or whatever. I knew this is something I need to do, invest in myself. And I've been a member since 2017. I've been the branch secretary for our Southern African branch. So that's just something I wanted to put in there in terms of the networking and the value out of, for instance, belonging to these types and similar to a WISTA. So I would definitely encourage anyone to be part of these professional associations and bodies. As I mentioned, I had quite a long period with Marine Crew Services. And then for various reasons in 2016, I thought, okay, be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. So I resigned from Marine Crew Services and I actually started my own company, Maritime Training Enterprise. The photo in the middle is basically me with short hair and very excited because I got my SAMHSA accreditation in terms of the MLC 2006 Seafarer Recruitment and Placement Services basic license, which you need to be able to place seafarers, and also as part of managing cadet training programs, the accreditation for accelerated deck and engineering cadet programs. So that was probably one of the I want to say sort of the highlights. I want to say that I actually had the guts to do this. It was also a difficult period, especially in terms of the crew placements. At that stage, especially the offshore industry was really hard hit, and you had so many vessels that was laid up. So I did not actually even place a single seafarer. Luckily, I had consulting services, and that helped to pay the bills. But I also had very good friends that during this period supported me, and for a couple of months actually bought my groceries, because it was really tough times. And yeah, I couldn't actually every month sort of get by with everything. But thanks for also surrounding yourself with good friends that buy into your dream and your visions. The picture of the steering committee with Saimi is, and I'd say that's again one of those be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid. And it could also be considered if you don't ask, you don't know or you don't get. During again this sort of period where times were tough, I approached Saimi. I presented myself. I said, this is who I am. This is my background. This is my skill set. Is there anything within Saimi that I could help with, that I could assist with, because I need to pay the bills? And within that, the long and the short of it is, in time, I was then the National Cadet Program Manager for Saimi. And during this period, I had fantastic opportunities in representing South Africa at various international delegations in the Philippines, at North Shipping. So really, that was great exposure during the period that I had with Saimi. Then another little life lesson I would say is grab every opportunity. So in 2018, I was again very, very fortunate to be one of the South African students that were selected by TITA, our Transport Education and Training Authority, to get a fully paid scholarship to the World Maritime University in Malmö, Sweden. And that is where I did my Maritime Education and Training Master's degree. I was also lucky during that period, after that period actually, that the university offered me a short-term contract. And that was the research that was alluded to at the beginning of this sort of my introduction. So that's just again sort of another little life lesson in grabbing every opportunity, because maybe you just get one. The last little life lesson I would say is invest in yourself and take the ownership for your own development. Now, the picture on the left, you'll see Nautical Institute. This was during 2017 at the IMO, and it was during the HTW subcommittee meeting, which some of you may know, that is particularly the subcommittee that look after seafarer training and development, etc. And for me, the key thing is leaders never stop learning. And like I said, take ownership of your own development. And for me, I knew if I need to basically market myself, you need to keep abreast of what is happening in the industry. Luckily, it helped that I was a Nautical Institute member, branch secretary at that stage. And I requested from the head office in London if I could be part of the Nautical Institute delegation to the IMO. And they agreed, and that is why I then went to the IMO to sit in for that week-long discussions as far as related to seafarer training and development. Similarly, the picture on the right, you can see there we've got Dumasani and obviously Secretary General Kitaklim. This was also where I knew this is something that I had to do for my own development. When I went to Malmö, Sweden, for the Masters, I knew when I come back, I actually don't have necessarily employment in South Africa. That was before I obviously knew that I would receive this short-term contract with university. So I basically pre-planned, because I knew that was an option at the IMO, that you can do an internship. It's self-funded. Basically, what it means is you can go there and you can do your research, but there's no financial assistance. So I sold my car. I used the money for my travel, my accommodation, the flights, everything I needed for this 1 month that I spent in London. This was 2019, November, December. And I particularly chose those dates because I knew at the IMO that is when they were going to have every 2 years, as you know, they've got the assembly and the council. And that is why I planned to be there for that period. And again, the networking that you get out of, I want to say, being in the room, being seen, being part of discussions has really helped me immensely. I think in my career, from where I started that very first Nautical Institute Command seminar until where I am now. So that's just as a last little sort of pearl of wisdom that I can say in terms of that is take ownership of your own development, because you're not necessarily going to get somebody else that always supports you. In terms of where I'm at now within Wallem, I'm the head of training, and there's honestly, it's such a great company to work for because they recognize the value of diversity and cognitive diversity. So if I talk about diversity, not just necessarily male and female, if you look at different nationalities, different cultures, and also if you consider generations, there's so much, I mean, the experience from older generations, but especially now with technology and how quickly it is advancing, and if you consider the generation or the millennials, generation Y, and we're back at even generation Alpha, there's other skills. They may not have the experience from sort of a long-serving career, but they bring in a different dynamic. And this is definitely evident in Wallem as a company. My last slide is basically just to show, again, from when there's leadership vision and leadership commitment to actually make it happen. This is just a snapshot from sort of the past 3 years when the then CEO came in, Frank Coles, and the vision he had in how he wanted to transform the company. And as I mentioned, to where we are now, especially of significance is looking at the average age, which tells you again, the diversity coming in from a younger generation, and also considering the male-female ratio. And that is that, and I apologize for being over time. I'll stop sharing my screen.
I think you did a great job, Yvette. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. It was very insightful and very inspirational. Thank you. Now we're moving to Neusa. So she also can share with us her experience.
Thank you so much, Mariana, first for the invitation to be part of this seminar. It's always important to talk about the women inclusion in maritime, which is a sector that it's sometimes overlooked, although the trend is changing. I'll share my screen. I hope I don't face any constraints with the digital.
No worries.
Okay, I think you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
I will start by sharing with the audience today a bit of background on my career. I wish it was as interesting and as joyful as Yvette, so she set very high the bar. Mine is a bit different. I started in shipping at the age of 23, coming right out of university after economics degree. And at the beginning, I have no plans to work for Maritime. It's all logistic. However, the opportunity set for itself. And at an early age, I was invited to join one of the major shipping lines campaign, and that's how all started, in fact. So I started my career as a sales representative, where I learned the basics about shipping, and this talking more corporative, more on the transactional side. So I was tasked to sell containers into a shipping, basically for whoever want to do transportation from A to B. And in that role, I learned all that had to do with containers, different type of containers, vessels, operational requirements of vessels, the stakeholders involved. And it was interesting, but my target was to only stay 1 year, gain some experience, and then jump into something else, perhaps on the field where I started my education on. However, after more or less 1 year, the DNA of shipping started flowing onto my blood. And I was soon convinced that that's what I wanted for my life. It's difficult when you enter shipping through the right way, not to fall in love for it. I mean, so quickly. So during my 15 years of career, I passed through several roles and positions, which were crucial for my development, for my knowledge, experience acquisition, and provided me full visibility of the maritime sector. Not too much into technical, I would say, not the inside the vessel, etc., but on the transactional, which is where my field of expertise is. However, I must say that during all the period that I started, as I mentioned, the past years, and all the roles I passed through, it was actually when I joined CMA CGM that I was offered a big challenge, and I provided a full turnaround on my career in maritime. Because at CMA CGM, I joined as National Commercial Director, and I was then challenged to go further and beyond and get to be involved on the restructuring, full restructuring of the campaign, taking opportunity my managerial skill and background as well. So there I had the opportunity to know a bit about each and every department of the shipping, of the corporate shipping industry. And also as part of the culture, usually CMA CGM invites you, constantly challenges you to think outside of the box, share ideas, innovate, be flexible as needed. And that's really crucial on day-to-day when you handle cargo belonging to the customers and involving various ports and into the logistics sector. So that provided actually a lot of guidance to me and knowledge, as I said. And we constantly acquire, because usually I say that shipping is not, you don't know shipping as much as you study. Yvette touched on a very important point. It's nice to keep pace, to be updated at all time. Absolutely, when it comes to maritime, there is no such a thing as assuming that you know everything, because you are on constantly move. You learn every day, and it's important to learn every day. That's as well one of the points that I like most about the company I work for, CMA CGM, because here you get the support not only from top management, but a vast global network of colleagues, and we support one another. And we have various external and internal trends that help us to grow. And it was on this note that I was actually inspired by such a culture of continuous improvement. And I created a passion on coaching, on developing a team, that I decided to then embrace a post-graduation on business and leadership, which absolutely helped me to acquire extra knowledge and to start grooming, growing, and coaching, especially other women to join the maritime industry. Because usually we say at the maritime that we are constantly recruiting lovers for maritime. Those are brave individuals, eager of adventure and patient and result driven, because it's in this industry that you get to be provided all of those opportunities, actually. But as all, there are some associated challenges to maritime, which most of them today were surpassed, I would say, but the industry still sees them as barriers, especially when it comes to women joining maritime. So one of them is that the sector is not so balanced when it comes to women and men, gender in overall. So it remains a very male-dominated industry. The trend is slowly moving, I must say, but to a better gender inclusion. But there is still a lot to be done until we achieve a balance in the industry. So gender usually plays a challenging role in various occasions, as set by some of the people. And I must say that 15 years ago, when I joined the industry, it was far worse than what I see today. In various instances, I was the only woman on the table for meetings, strategic or non-strategic meetings. I used to be alone in the meeting with the rest male intervening. Today, it's less frequent, very, very less frequent, but still happen in some of the occasions. But what I quickly realized and made all the difference is how important it is for you to have confidence. Because from the minute you walk through and you are confident to what you present to the table, I can tell you that gender will be no barrier to what you can achieve. At the same time, there is also a belief that maritime industry, it's hard for women. I'm so glad that Yvette started presenting before me, because she totally proved that it's no barrier at all. She has been on the vessels as a seafarer towards her career. She has done a lot, and she proves the point that I wanted to stress here. Nowadays, I think this is just a built fallacy that maritime is hard for women. And I personally think that it's a very outdated belief, because with the modern tools, it became more and more favorable to have women included in all levels and fields of maritime, be it at shore, be it at sea, be it on operational side, be it on commercial side. It's yes possible to have women effectively and efficiently handling all the requirements of the business. And here in the organization I work for, CMA CGM, we have a very good number of women in all departments, either in the office or in our container depots, in the terminals that the group owns, as well as in our vessels too. We have women that are captains of vessels. We have women that are crew of vessels. We have women that drive reach stackers. We have women at the top leading and taking decisions. So some people also point to the work-life balance and blending the professional and the personal roles, especially when it comes to a woman into maritime, having in mind that it's a very demanding sector, especially when you are working for a global company that, well, the world doesn't sleep, because when some of the countries are sleeping, others are waking up. But I would say that that's as well nothing that's specific to the woman, because when it comes to work-life balance, I believe that it's in general a difficult task to accomplish, but it affects women and it affects men as well, equally. So it's no more on women and no more on men, especially nowadays. So I feel that if some can do it, why can't others not do it? So it's totally possible to achieve a work-life balance in maritime as well, in logistics. And for me, especially sharing my experience and to avoid dropping the ball in any of the fields, because I'm also a mother and wife and daughter and etc. I tend to choose my battles, basically. so that I ensure not to drop the ball in any of the two. And I can assure you that it works perfectly well. And of course, an organized routine does also play a role. But the bright side of it, as I said, for us as women, is that we can perfectly attain that balance and still with a smile. So why would then we say that women need to be in maritime? More women need to be in maritime. This is what we would like to see, more women in maritime. I would start by saying that despite some of the challenge, it remains one of the most beautiful and interesting careers to pursue. That's because shipping is vast, is complex, and it's very interesting. There is no one solution fits all. When it comes to shipping and logistics, day-to-day management, for instance, you need to be really creative. You need to know the important rules, your do's, your don'ts, your green and red traffics, and then the rest you apply as needed. So I usually say that on my day-to-day is a roller coaster. When I walk to the office, it's difficult to preview what the day will present me. As much as I try to organize my agenda, shipping happens. That's what we say. But it's nice to see that we are moving into the right direction, especially nowadays on shipping becoming more modernized, more digital, and that helps. It helps a lot. So although it's vast and complex, as I said, there is no monotony. You are constantly challenged and you need to be updated above all the trends going around. I just mentioned digital. There is also political, there is sanitary. We just saw the pandemic. There are customers' requirements. So you need to keep up that pace. You need to keep updated at all time. And I totally believe that it makes it so interesting on day to day. The industry is fast-paced moving, and there is still a huge room for improvement. When I mention creativity, yes, we have to be very creative every day. And that since the needs of the customers are evolving, since the demand of the market is evolving, there is a lot that can still be done, a lot that can still be developed and implemented and created on this industry. So as well, one point that I really like about is that we as women in general, we are usually very brave. We are creative. We are organized. I'm not saying men are not organized, but I'm basically focusing on women, checking on what in general are the main characteristics of women. We are organized and we love to be challenged, especially nowadays where diversity is being called to the table at all time. The maritime industry brings all of that. So that's again the perfect and appropriate place for us to be if we want to be challenged further and beyond. There is also a need of diversity, which certainly enables further progress and enrichment of the industry. It's already proven that women can make a difference in maritime. Let it be at shore or let it be at sea, as I said initially, it's proven because diversity brings a different way of thinking. And by diversity is not only women. When I say it's diverse goes to age, to ethnicity, to a lot of other things nowadays. It's vast, the subject of diversity. But speaking about women per se, we have proved already that we can add value, we can be present, we can contribute above all to the industry in various positions and ways. Now talking a bit of the organization of CMA CGM and the women, what we're doing. One of the biggest passions that I have about what I do was brought up by CMA CGM, their way of thinking, as I have mentioned before, but the culture per se. When I joined CMA CGM 6 years ago as country commercial director, CMA in Mozambique, CMA CGM showed quickly to me that it was so fast-paced moving. Remember, I said I joined another shipping line, and it was totally different, very different. Although it was equally big. CMA CGM, being a world leader in shipping and logistics, is always proud to be the pioneer in various leading initiatives within the industry. And that creates you a sort of range of things that you can embrace, you can be part of. That totally, I would say it's a perfect environment for professionals that are eager to grow, to learn, to unleash the maximum potential that they have. So I totally identified myself with the culture from the very first minute I joined, and that was crucial, as I mentioned, to progress further. As for instance, our CEO, Mr. Rodolphe Sade, is constantly challenging the teams to embrace new global trends, which calls for sustainability, but also diversity at the workplace. For that, for instance, Mariana mentioned initially that at some stage I had 6% of my leaders in one of the agencies. I was part of women, and that's totally it. The group right now has embraced as a target for 2022 year end, at least 20% of women at the leading position. That's a major turnover of the industry, and it's a bold move, I would say, and that certainly will create the fairness that the topic calls for. We also have a good number of women today already that are part of the group executive committee, that are on a very key management roles where on day-to-day they actively take very important decisions for the business, and they do that successfully. That's why I said when I see those examples which are totally inspirational, I can confidently say, plus many others around the industry, I can confidently say that we as women, we have proven already what our capabilities are and where can we add value if we are part of the team, by being part of the team as well. Last but not least, the group is also creating a leadership program for women that we call We Are Shipping, which is across the globe. And this is totally to train, to grow, to motivate women to be part of the executive positions, top positions, and in general, at all the hierarchies of the organization. It's a major turnover, and it's providing lots of fruits already. So last but not least on this topic, as I mentioned before, I was very proud to be the first African appointed to lead a cluster, which was a major turnaround of CMA CGM in Africa, and the business, maybe who knows. And that I'm really grateful for the opportunity, because it made me, the trust that the company offered to me made me to surpass my own limits, made me to find what I was capable of to deliver, to not talk about the number of people that it inspired. I would like to leave a small recommendation for the audience in general. On the maritime industry that I mentioned that's rapidly evolving, it's already proven, as I repeated several times as well, that we can actively contribute in several ways, regardless of hierarchical position, regardless of where we are placed to contribute on maritime. There is absolutely no limits that of what we as women can accomplish. I would also say that gender does not bring, does yes bring diversity into the workplace. And together we can always do better. And did you know that women seafarers today, they are only less than 1.2% of the global seafarers workforce? This is scary when you think about the number of vessels we have outside, in all sort of vessels, from cruises to container carriers, bulk, and etc. So when we take that percentage, it's really, we can really feel that a lot more can be done, but nothing is lost. When we compare 2015, this has increased by 45.8%. So imagine what it was if from 2015 to now is 45.8% increase. on the number of women seafarers on the vessel, and still we are 1.2%. You can imagine that there is really a lot that can be done. And it's up to us, all of us professionals on Maritimes, the top heads, but as well the people that have been on Maritimes or have passion for Maritime, to continue to influence the other generations, existing and other generations, to embrace the maritime sector, which is beautiful. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much, Neusa. I think this was very valuable, and I actually agree with both of you, with you and with Yvette, in terms of the topic of continuous growth and learning, and how we are able to find in innovation and through training more confidence. Now I'm going to ask Colleen to share with us her thoughts.
Hi, I'm just seeing if I can get my screen to be shared. Can you see a nice black screen?
Yes?
Yes.
I think so.
Then I think we are ready to go. All right. Okay, so thank you for hosting us, Mariana, and your professional input in leading us to this day. So as mentioned, my name is Colleen Jacka. I'm from Maritime Review Africa, which was launched in 2002. But let me set the scene about what I'm actually going to speak about. It's about wedding rings. It's about a mattress that gets cut up into tiny little pieces. It's about a flash mob, about being sold, and yes, about boobs. Ladies, it is also October, which is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so please get yourself checked. Okay. While I was putting this presentation together, I actually had the realization that my magazine would not exist if I actually wasn't a woman. And that's quite a bold statement to make. And it requires that I rewind a little bit from year 2021, which we're in now, and go back all the way to 1995. I left varsity, catching my Bachelor of Journalism, realized I couldn't become a major bestseller title, and went looking for a job, and found myself being interviewed by one of the biggest B2B publishers in the country, a company called George Wallem Publications, which had the most bizarre titles: Essay Cleaning Review, Shoemaker and Leather Review, Machine Tool Review. So, you know, we were thrown in at the deep end into industries, and we were told just to learn about what they did. And then one day, the person that was working on their maritime magazine called Southern Africa Shipping News left, and she said to me, "Get yourself onto this magazine." And that's what I did, and it was the best decision I ever made. After that, George Wallem actually sold the company to Prime Media Publishing, so I found myself working for one of the biggest publishing and broadcasting companies in the country. But they were based up in Joburg, and basically had no idea about the ocean. And I actually started remotely working from home for them, so I have loads of practice in that. And I kind of thought, you know, they don't really understand what this magazine's about. They don't understand what the industry is about. And, you know, I've been, at that point, had been with the magazine, I think, for about 5 or 6 years. And I said to them, are they interested in selling? And they said, absolutely not. They love the magazine and they are keeping it. But lo and behold, next thing I knew, I get a telephone call and I've been sold back to George Wallem Publications. And by this time, George Wallem is an old man. He's literally only bought back the Maritime title for some reason. And he's probably heading towards his 80s. And I start working for him again, and I prompt the question, hey, how about I buy shares in the company? And he kind of says, well, we will talk about that. And basically fobbed me off till the end of the year. And then another 6 months went by, and I would ask the same question and say, listen, I'm really interested in becoming a shareholder, because, you know, I'm putting a lot of work into this magazine. He literally just sat at his desk. He didn't have a computer. He was that old. And he said, no, we'll talk about it next year. Then the next thing I know is that he's brought a friend's son into the business, and the son has been given shares. And I was a little bit peeved. This guy was young. He didn't really know the difference between STCW and CMYK, which meant he knew nothing about maritime and he knew nothing about publishing. So literally I was holding his hand, telling him what to do, and being not given any opportunities simply because my very old boss was very patriarchal. Now, at this point, I thought to myself, I'm going to leave and I'm going to start in opposition. And that's why I can honestly say that I think the only reason that this magazine exists is because I'm a woman. Had my boss then said, let's talk about this buying into the business, let's talk about it, and I actually followed through, I probably would have been still working for SA Shipping News and not have started an opposition. And if you think that's unfair of me to say, I suspect it's true. And if he'd had a friend's daughter come on board, he would never have done that, because he was the type of man who actually said to me, there's just no way I'm letting a woman do that. So, you know, I had a fair idea that that was not going to happen. And it's actually quite sad, because SA Shipping News by that time had a very rich history and had been started even before George Wallem, and had, I think, if it was still going today, it probably would be about almost 80 years old. So the country lost a really valuable maritime asset, and I was essentially forced to open my own magazine, which I'm not ungrateful for. So that's where we are today. Well, that was 2002. But yesterday, the ISS Africa actually hosted a maritime webinar on females in the workspace, and the gender landscape, as has already been pointed out by the previous two speakers, is quite dismal. And only 2% of the maritime workforce are actually women. And I've got it here as 20%, and Neusa actually commented that that's where they'd like it to see it go, and that would be really quite awesome. So that's the future we're looking at. And I'd like to just go back again in history to when I first started reporting on the industry, and say that the world has actually changed for the better. One of my first interviews was with an MD of a major ship repair company, and basically he said, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name because I was too busy staring at your boobs. That's where the boob story comes in. And I was so young and naive that I really didn't know what to say to him. And I from then on started going to conferences and so forth, and really experiencing that same kind of interaction with men, and I started wearing a ring to conferences, which helped a little bit. I still get emails that say, dear sir, not even to whom it may concern. And the other aspect of the industry at the moment is that we're still celebrating the first ladies who, the first lady dredge master, the first lady port harbour master, the first lady Navy diver. And in fact today, and I'm just going to actually pop over to my other screen and bring you a press release I got 2 days ago from the SA Navy. 19th of October, first female appointed to command SAS Saldanha, the biggest training unit in the South African Navy. Now that's wonderful news. It's an awesome story, but I'm getting really tired of stories about the first woman. It makes us seem like we're an anomaly when we're not. We're not some weird thing that has happening in the maritime industry. We are integral parts of it. And so yes, I'm looking forward to a time when I don't ever get a press release that says the first woman this or the first woman that. Okay, I'll see where I am now in my thing. Okay. So just moving forward a little bit more then. My presentation will catch up with me. But also just another aspect of the shipping environment is that, okay, that's what I really wanted to show you. There are loads of women in the industry already. We are present, we are available, we are doing amazing things, and unfortunately I couldn't get more photos into this presentation, but basically there's a load of women that are really doing their bit. Okay, so we are looking at celebrating 2 decades next year with the magazine, and part of that will be looking at the stories of people and sharing them. And we have an amazing lineup of mini mags for the next 12 months starting in 2022, and a whole lot of key interviews with people across the board. Last year we had started with something called On the Quayside, and we started in August month, and it basically featured only women. So in fact this year we are going to be able to have the story of the first male person on the quayside with us shortly. So yeah, moving along again. Those are kind of the topics that we'll be covering, and again we will have our Maritime Industry Dialogue, which happens on the last Thursday of every month and covers a range of topics as well. But I would like to just talk about something we're launching now that's open to the entire industry, and it would be lovely to see basically the first one of our blue economy champions being a woman. But it's going to take everyone to nominate people and to find out who these people are in the industry. So if you're interested, you can hop along to our Facebook page, and we've got links to how you can nominate people in the industry as well. So that's basically really it for me. I also just want to ask you if you think you're smarter than the seafarer. We're hosting a quiz night on November the 31st. No prizes, no entry fees, just something fun. So that's also available from our Facebook pages and so forth. But then Mariana asked me to just speak briefly also about what the role of women is as leaders in the industry. And I think we can all agree that there's no difference between a male or a female leader in any industry. For the maritime industry, I see leaders' role, whether they're male or female, is to help grow the industry sustainably, to basically provide a space for the next generation, because I'm getting old, and I see a lot of grey-haired, older white men in the industry that stick around and then end up coming back as consultants, charging huge amounts of money. And we really need to be able to say to the next generation that we're handing over a sustainable industry to them, and to help them learn the tools they need to grow in the industry. And lastly, really to foster collaboration and accountability. Collaboration we throw around at every single conference, and and we say we work in silos, and we do. You know, we have everyone's trying to protect their little bit of the turf and be the hero in that specific space, and we're not working together as we should. Yeah, I think that's it from me. Now I just have to work out how to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Colleen. I wanted to quickly go to questions. Actually, one of the questions was about leadership. So I think when you were talking about leadership, Colleen, you more or less addressed the topic. There's another question that says, in your opinion, how accurate is it to use the X-ray equipment on containers? And would the X-ray of containers replace current physical inspections? I don't know if maybe Yvette can comment.
On that question, unfortunately, I cannot comment. That is not my field of expertise. I would do it injustice if I try.
Okay.
Could I just put a word in there, just from someone who essentially watches the industry, and the biggest gripe that we have about ports is the congestion and delays. And unless you're going to have quite a few X-ray machines that are going to be consistently working and not delaying any containers from getting from the ship to the port, or the other way around, I don't. It certainly is an option, but it's not the only option.
Neusa, would you like to comment on it as well?
Yes, Mariana, quickly. I believe that this is a subject that has to do with a few bunch of stakeholders, because some of the times the X-rays, they're applied by the government. In some of the countries, they are privatized, or the Port Authority. It depends on the context. But usually the application of it with the physical inspection or without the physical inspection, it's usually a requirement from the local authorities, in this case customs, because who requires the X-ray inspection is customs. If they are not happy with what they saw, they go for a physical inspection. Usually that's how it works.
Okay, I see. Thank you. And now maybe Yvette, if you can answer the following question. It says, do you find that our male colleagues are supportive generally to women leaders? If not, what do you think can be done to bridge the gap?
I think, yeah, how general is general, but I think in general, there has probably been a marked improvement, given as we've discussed now in the previous from the previous speakers as well. If you consider the amount of females in the industry, yes, it's still a drop in the ocean in the bigger scheme of things, but here we are discussing these I mean, our career paths, and there's many more women like us. So I think in general, yes, I think they are supportive, but of course there could always be something more could be done, as with anything else. And I think the second part of the question was what more could be done. And I would say that is the same again in terms of diversity, but whether it is diversity in male or female, diversity from generational different ages, or if it is diversity from different nationalities and cultures. It is, and it comes back to again what Colleen touched on in the responsibilities of a leader. A leader should build a strong team, but he or she should facilitate that camaraderie and teamwork. And I think a big thing in terms of this with considering diversity is we are different, and that's the beauty of it. But you need to have a safe space to have these discussions in terms of how we are different and how it actually strengthens a team. So that would be sort of my answer. Yes, I think we do have a lot of support from male colleagues. Interesting, I was listening a couple of days to the Safety for Sea panel discussion, particularly looking at future training needs. And it was a panel just of males. And one of them raised this to say, if we talk about diversity and inclusion, our panel should reflect that. And it was great to hear. So it is no longer just women pushing our own, I want to say our own agenda. Times have changed. And I think men realize the value of women and what they can bring.
No, I see, and I agree completely. Colleen, would you like to close that question?
Yeah, basically, I think the maritime industry is simply a microcosm of larger society, and as larger society changes and embraces women being leaders and changing their roles, so will the maritime industry. I mean, it's interesting to note that some of the European countries give just as much paternity leave as they do maternity leave, which means that, you know, when you're being hired, it used to be that if you were a young woman who maybe was just getting married, the cogs going in the person's brain is this person going to go on maternity leave? And now, if the playing field is leveled and your male counterparts have the right to go on paternity leave, that changes the whole dynamic. So as society as a whole changes, so every type of industry changes.
I see. Perhaps the last question for Neusa, quickly. It says, with your experience in shipping and container cargo handling, we're now facing the extended delays in shipping. When do you predict maritime industry will overcome these delays? I think your microphone is muted.
Yes, the usual sentence of the year, again this year. Thank you, Mariana. Actually, I was not expecting that question here, but it's a so common question all over the society, the countries, and etc. I wish I had a crystal ball. That's my answer, and the answer I usually gives, because as much as we as much experience as you have in shipping, what we are living, it's unprecedented times. It was never seen on the commercial maritime industry before, what's happening today. And it's not only one factor. It's there are sort of factors involved when it comes to the bringing to normality the maritime industry, if it ever comes. I would say demand and supply on the market, especially the big economies, but also from the small economies in terms of raw material, which is what happens when it comes to exports from Africa. I would say the pandemic as well, because it does affect some of the countries, some of the of the ports, I mean. So if you get ports closed, that creates bypass, and that creates shortage of cargo, higher demand. And the list goes on, I would say. The list goes on. Also technical concepts of the technical requirements of some of the ports, the efficiency of some of the ports, political factors in some of the countries. We saw in South Africa this year, specifically affecting logistics to a big scale in July. So there are various factors, and there is the IMO regulation that's coming up in January as well. So that we still to see how that affect the commercial maritime sector. But we hope for the best. We are trying to normalize when it comes to organization. Various solutions have been put in place and plans that carry on. to mitigate the situation, and we hope to have it back to normal as soon as possible.
Okay, well, thank you. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but I thank you for sharing this experience and for motivating the audience. Ladies, you're truly inspirational and also a great model in the maritime industry. To our audience, please make sure you stay in touch and also to write to the contact displayed. And join us also next week. We will have the following webinar, the following Thursday, same time. We'll do a short demo in collaboration with Aquinet's team to discover how digitalization tools transform and improve terminal planning and maritime training. So we will be sharing who our guest speakers would be in our LinkedIn page and our website, tmicm.com. Please make sure you register and also share. We will share the recording as well in all our platforms. And thank you. And until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.